Thank you so much for joining us on today's episode. The Nigeria Police Force is a major body in Nigeria that secures the lives and properties of Nigerians across board. They make sure that people are safe and they're secure. There are a lot of perspectives, there are a lot of thoughts, there are a lot of myths and legends about the Nigeria Police Force. There is a way that the Nigerian people perceive them, not just in Nigeria, both those in diaspora and other citizens of other countries. Joining me to talk about the image of the Nigeria Police Force today is the Police PRO in Lagos Command, and that is Benjamin Hundeyin. Thank you for joining.
Good morning. Thank you.
Now, like I said, the topic today would be majorly the image of the Nigeria Police Force. I will try to narrow it down to the Lagos Command where you supervise or where you represent rather. Um, Over time, I've observed personally that there has been this growth when it comes to communication between the police force and the people. Before now, let's say maybe about 3, 4, 5, 6 years, 7 years ago, there wasn't much communication between the people and the police force. Whatever communication we had would be through the mainstream media and through press releases and maybe sometimes through the federal government. Now, these days, I see that police officers, especially people like you, um, CSP Muiwa or Dejobi in Abuja and the rest of them, are more active on social media. Now, the reason why I'm bringing the topic from that perspective is that some time ago, about 7 years ago, a certain police officer, whose name I will not mention, was interviewed. And during the interview, someone asked him and said, there was a case that was going viral on social media at the time. And the question was that why isn't the police doing anything about that particular case? But his response was that nobody reported the case officially. And at the time, it made sense to me that okay, someone has to go to the police station to report the case, but nobody has done that. And he was saying that the police cannot pick up a case based on what is going on social media. Now, I need you to enlighten the people uh, what the process is. What can the police do when we have such cases?
Well, thank you very much. The truth remains that some videos you see online are fake.
Mm,
Some videos you see online are doctored.
mm,
So it will be preposterous on our part to simply pick a video or an allegation online and act on it. And even if we do, as long as the victim or the complainant is not there to give his or her statement, the case would fail in court.
mm,
It would definitely fail because the magistrate or the judge would ask you who's complaining, who's the victim, and that gives the suspects an opportunity to say nothing of such happened,
mm,
and they would be allowed to go.
mm.
So it's necessary for people to actually walk up to a station and to complain. Now, I always use an example from, in quotes, sinner climbs, like our
Okay.
people say over here, that in sinner climbs, in sinner climbs. So last year, Will Smith actually slapped Chris Rock on
Right.
stage, live on TV. Over, I mean, millions of viewers saw it, but the police did not lift a finger.
Mm,
The police asked Chris Rock to file a complaint. If you file a complaint, we'll take it up. But if you don't, nothing would happen. Another example, just 2 weeks ago, Cardi B was on stage and someone poured water on her.
yes.
The police
And she threw
did
the
not,
mic.
yeah, and she threw the mic. The police did not lift a finger. And the woman actually went to report. Now the police has invited Cardi B. So I'm just using sinner climbs. Now back home here, the same thing applies. For certain categories of crime, you need to report. If if it's a crime that affects the entire community, it affects public peace, yes, the police would not need it's the state against the person.
Mm,
Though every crime too is about state against the person. But when it is a personality, a particular individual, you would need to report. So what that person said, what you quoted, is actually correct.
so it appears as though people often get carried away that because a case is viral, they tend to believe that, oh, I think Ben Hundeyin is on Twitter. He can see what is trending. Why is he not acting upon it when there is no public filing? Now you mentioned something that's on the case of Cardi B and the lady. Now I want to use it as a scenario because I know that it's possible to happen for it to happen in Nigeria. We've seen cases where artists in Nigeria kick their fans on stage and all of that. Now where I'm going is that the lady threw the water first, and then Cardi B threw a mic in return. But the lady reported Cardi B. She filed the complaint before Cardi B. Now, does this have a major impact? Who first files the complaint? Because a lot of people have this mindset. I mean, in Lagos here, there's a saying that ẹni tó bá àtẹni tó kọ́kọ́ lọ sọ́dọ̀ ọlọ́pàá àtẹni tó lọ lẹ́yìn àwọn méjèèjì ló máa jẹ̀bi, which means that both the complainant and the accused are all going to be guilty at the end of the day. So does this have a major role to play? Does it have much impact? Who reports the case first?
No, that's why we have investigation. So it doesn't matter who comes first.
Okay.
Many a times, the first person to get to the station ends up being the suspect, ends up being taken to court. So it doesn't really matter. Many people are of the opinion that who goes to the police first would eventually win the case. No, it does not follow. So there will always be room for investigation.
Okay, let's talk about you personally. I follow you on Twitter and I've seen the way you respond, and I personally applaud that. I know that Twitter can be a very violent space where people come and drag you for whatever reason. They talk rashly. They're keyboard warriors. They come behind the keyboard to say things they can't even say to your face when they see you in person. How do you manage the let's say the violence that comes from Twitter, as the Twitter people say it? There's a word they use to say there is violence here and there. So how do you manage such? Because many times, personally, I feel that there are a number of people out there that if they were in your position and probably had the power that you had, a lot of people would have been arrested for ill speaking and defamation of character and a lot of accusations. Because sometimes I go through the comments and I'm like, where's this coming from? So how do you manage it, as both for yourself as a person and for the police force?
Well, I must never forget the fact that I'm representing an organization. I'm the face of the organization. So I need to be comported at all times. I need to maintain decorum. But don't get it wrong though.
Okay.
When people haul insults at me, I haul insults back at them.
I was going to get there.
Not online, in my own mind.
Okay.
In my own mind, if somebody types your father, I can't type it. But in my mind, I'm like a father too. So we are human, it gets to us. But we need to remain comported at all times. And over time, it's funny how human beings can adjust. Over time, they don't get to me anymore. In fact, they now become funny to me. The more heated up you are, the more amusing I find it. That sounds unfair, that sounds callous, but that's what people have taught me to adapt to. So when people insult, I just smile. I just move to the next comment.
I think I can quite relate with that, because when people insult you to a level, you just be like,
there's nothing new.
You know,
like there's nothing new.
Forget it.
There's nothing anybody would say now that they haven't said before. So I just move to the next comment.
Okay, now let's talk about complaints on social media. I know that oftentimes both yourself and the first PPRO gets tagged on social media for, oh, I've been robbed, oh, I've been scammed, and all of that. In such cases, what do you do? I know you said that there has to be an official complaint, but also in some scenarios, when there is a government intervention, maybe a public officer intervention or public servant intervention that calls for, oh, let this case be investigated. When we have public figures saying, oh, we need this case investigated, what would you do? And what if the complainant, this person on social media, is not even reachable and cannot file a complaint in person? What will be done?
Okay, so there are steps to be taken. For me, I've published, and I keep updating the publication, I've published the phone numbers of DPOs and area commanders. So when there's a problem, reach out to the nearest DPO to you. Is very likely to be the direct supervisors of the men that misbehaved. For people that ask me that, must we call the DPO before they do their job? Yes, that's why we have supervisors. That's why we have complaint channels. I tell people that if there's a debit on your account that you did not authorize, there is somebody to complain to.
Right.
If you walk into the bank and the bank staff is rude to you, there is somebody to complain to. So it's everywhere. In fact, the federal government too has the Public Complaints Commission, because there is bound to be complaints
Right.
from people. So yes, if a policeman misbehaves, he needs to complain. Police officers are prone to misbehavior everywhere in the world. It's not
The
a Nigerian
humans too.
thing. Yeah, it's a human thing. So we need to establish that yes, you need to complain. For people that ask, must we complain before they do their job? Yes.
What
Not
about
before they
people
do
that
their
are
job,
not
but
accessible on social media that cannot complain in person?
yes, not before they do their job, but people need to complain when people misbehave. For people that are not on social media, the police stations are there.
No, I mean people that complained on social media. Probably I was
That-
kidnapped
that- that-
and I
that's
sent
the-
a tweet.
that's the
Now
point
you know
I'm
I
trying
cannot
to-
get to a police station at that point because it's a point of kidnap. I don't even know where I am.
That,
What
that's
is the next line of action?
yes, I would like to conclude my first point, the point
Okay.
I was making. So, people should complain to the DPO. In the event that the DPO is part of the problem, the DPO too is answerable to an area commander. So, you complain to the area commander. In the event that the area commander, in the unlikely event that the area commander is part of the problem, then you can talk to the PRO or the Commissioner of Police. So these channels are there for people to adopt. And many people have made use of these channels and it's worked for them. So many. People come to give testimony and say, oh, I just went through Hundeyin's list and I saw the number of the people and I called him and everything was sorted out. For those that cannot reach the DPO, they are probably kidnapped and they send out a tweet. Evidence is out there that will take up such cases. We have lots and lots of evidence. There was a girl that said she had been kidnapped. She left Abuja. One Muslim girl on Twitter with
Yeah, I think I
hijab,
saw the tweet.
and we followed it up. She was eventually found in Surulere, Lagos.
Wow.
Though we did not publicize it because of the circumstances under which she was found. There was a time too, a girl said she was being raped. That was my first month in office here.
Wow.
That was March last year. A girl said she was being raped and she gave the address. Yes, and we went there immediately. It's still the evidence is still out there. We went there and discovered that she was just pranking the guys. So for those that cannot reach the station, yes, social media has come to stay. We can take complaints there.
Okay.
But for complaints that you can walk up to the station to complain or you can call the DPO, please do that first. And if it doesn't work, we'll take it up.
Okay, now let's talk about digitalization of the Nigeria Police Force. I know that, for example, there's now POSA where you can do your digital thumbprinting, and also some months ago you have to do the paper one where you use the inks and all of that, but now it's digital. What I'm driving at is that something happened to me, and this is my own personal experience. That should be sometime in May. I was robbed, and my phone was stolen. Now my phone was stolen at Mile 12 in Lagos here. I did not report it to the police, although I had the intention to, but I was too emotional to even walk into a police station. My husband just found a way to just make sure we leave that place at the time. So we headed home, we got to Penn Cinema, and we tried to report the case. And then we were told that, no, you cannot report the case here. You have to go back to Mile 12. Is it a problem with digitalization, a problem with records? Because I believe that for example, in the banking system, there was a time that you cannot complain. If you open your account in Ogba, you cannot complain in Isheri. You have to go to Ogba to complain. So is it the same thing with the police force? And are we expecting changes in that regard anytime soon?
It's about criminal justice,
Okay.
the criminal justice system. There's what we call jurisdiction,
Okay.
criminal justice. So it's very unlikely that you would file a court case about your landed property in Lagos and go and file it in Uyo. It will not be accepted.
Right.
It's about jurisdiction. So for police cases too, if something happened at K2, you go to Penn Cinema, it might affect your case if the case eventually gets to court. Your case
I
could
think
be
the
struck
policewoman
out.
told me the same thing.
Your case could be struck out on that technical ground. That no,
It's out of bound.
Your Honor, my suspect cannot be held liable because for something that happened in K2, and that there is foul play, somebody's playing pranks, and at the end of the day, if the case gets struck out, people will still blame the police for bungling the case. Like they messed up my case. So that's why you need to do it right.
Okay.
In terms of jurisdiction, report at the right police station, and the police too would take the case to court in the right jurisdiction. And if eventually the person gets imprisoned, you will also go to prison in the right jurisdiction. You won't take a prisoner from Lagos and go and detain in Kano. So when it comes to criminal justice system, jurisdiction plays a very big role.
Now, I don't want to finish this session without talking about Lagos State. And personally, I bought public transport whenever I feel like. And I have observed that, in fact, there's almost like a saying in Lagos that the Danfo drivers, the yellow bus drivers are above the law. And it's something I've experienced again and again and again. In fact, I still experienced it today. In a case where you see a traffic light, the traffic light is on red, and there's a police officer, there's a last mile official, there's probably an FRSC official, they're all there. And the Danfo driver just says, no, I can't wait for this. And he zooms off. And nobody says anything. In the same vein, right there, if you see a private car owner make the same move, that person will be arrested immediately. What are you guys doing about this? Because I have experienced it very much, and I know that it is a major issue in Lagos State.
I'll tell you a personal experience. I was working in Mokola division in Ibadan. I was on the road to enforce traffic laws and apprehend lawbreakers. And for private vehicles, the truth remains that drivers of private vehicles are very likely, the probability is very high that they are reasonable people. Probability is very high that they are reasonable people. So you stop them, they stop. And you can talk to them and do whatever you want to do. And the probability is also very high that the Danfo driver is a reckless and irrational human being. So from personal experience, there's this mode of public transport in Ibadan, very popular one, they call it Mikra. Tiny cars like this, Mikra. And we attempted to stop one of them. And the stunts he pulled on the road even scared us. And if an accident had occurred, people are quick to blame police, like, oh, I want to check with
officials.
So this particular day, we took it personal. We got so angry. Okay, he pulled the stunts and he zoomed off. And we followed him. Like, we had to get another vehicle and we were following him. And it became a car chase between Mokola and Dugbe. So, and it became dangerous. He wanted people to be aware. He wanted to create a scene, draw attention, so he would veer left, veer right, and we were following. So at a point, we had to tell ourselves to stop the chase because it could lead to an accident. So we allowed him go. But one thing we did was to note his plate number. We noted that, and they were arrested him like 2 weeks after. It was quite easy. In fact, he avoided Songo Dugbe. He avoided it.
As expected.
And 2 weeks after, the same car, another driver now passed. But because we were watching out for the number, it was so easy. There was a gridlock. It was stuck, and we were able to arrest him. So back to Danfo. That's a Danfo that plies that route.
Yes.
You will still see him again. You even know the driver. The private car might be a visitor to Lagos and is reasonable. So it's for our own protection, for the protection of our image. If I try to apprehend the Danfo driver, he proves a stunt and even knocks me down, we will get the blame. Right. We are the victim, we will get the blame. Like when they wanted to collect 15 naira. You run after him, he hits another car, we'll get the blame. Nothing favors us. We would always get the blame. So
it's not worth it.
So it's discretional to see the Danfo driver and be like, okay, you come back.
See again.
And when he actually comes back, unfortunately, you might not be around to see where he's being stopped and taken to the station and maybe charged to court. But it's a traffic offense. It's a traffic offense. If he gets to court today, he's likely to pay his fine. 10,000 naira, 20,000 naira, and you see him on the street again tomorrow. So, of course, people would say, police arrested him yesterday, and he's out again today. Oh, they've collected bribe. No, sometimes it's not bribe because it's a traffic
It's a traffic
offense.
offense.
You can even pay your fine and go. In fact, we have mobile courts. You don't have to go to your courts like you know it.
Yeah.
There are mobile courts and you just pay your fine
Pay
and
your
go.
fine and
So sometimes it's not what people think that, oh, maybe they're collecting money from the downfall drivers to allow them break the law. No, sometimes you're just being discretionary to say he has broken the law, but we'll find it. Even in back to sinner crimes. Even in sinner crimes, sometimes you don't engage in car chase for the safety of other road users,
Right.
but you note the number and later you get the person arrested. For them, they have very good database. They can even come to your house. They can
And
even
find you.
debit your account because with your number, everything is linked. They know you have. So most times it's for discretionary purpose.
Okay, I hope that someday, as the Nigeria Police Force, we're able to get to that point where everything goes digital and we are able to access all the citizens in Nigeria and everybody that lives or stays or visits.
I hope Nigerians don't complain that the government is monitoring them if they have too much information about
They are going to do that, but the sinner crimes that they speak of, that's what goes on there. That's how they're able to keep their people in shape. Thank you so much for joining us today. All right, that's how far we can go on this segment. We'll see you guys again, same time, same station. My name is Rachael Abioye.